Unlike certain games you'll play, you're not shackled to a linear path in Dark Souls 2, and are free to go wherever takes your fancy, whether that's exploring a forest, an eerily abandoned castle, or an even eerier looking castle. While the dungeon feel and gritty fantasy setting is pretty reminiscent of Shadow of the Colossus or the Zelda series, the darker tone and bleak atmosphere makes the game feel chillingly unique. The world often feels abandoned and barren, and the sense of isolation is a powerful part of the game's mood, which makes encountering the occasional NPC a welcome and relieving experience. Within each area there are often multiple options, tempting you to deviate from your current route and explore what lies off the beaten path. And after taking a few wrong turns, I learned pretty early on that sometimes a seemingly innocent looking path can lead you straight into the depths of hell. After wandering through the tutorial cave section and slaying a few ghostly apparitions of bandits, and embarrassingly being killed by some pigs, but let's not talk about that, I eventually made my way to the game's real enemies. While crossing a ruined bridge, I was met by two armoured behemoths who didn't seem particularly happy to see me. After walking a few feet, the closest armoured giant swung his sword at me and delivered a devastating blow to my poor little avatar. I managed to work in a few feeble jabs from my rubbish starting sword before the Juggernaut landed his next blow, which proceeded to smash me into tiny pieces. It turns out that just like tackling the gigantic foes of Monster Hunter, the key to victory in Dark Souls 2 comes from learning your enemy's attack patterns, and then making full use of the limited window of opportunity you're given to attack them. Without memorizing their attack patterns, you stand little chance of actually defeating these enemies, and just blindly rushing in will almost always result in your death. Again, like in Monster Hunter, victory only comes to those who are patient, and usually after you've had your rectum handed to you a few times. The risk-reward factor of leaving every dodge and roll to the last possible second is a pretty nerve-wracking experience, and the looming threat of death makes combat in Dark Souls 2 an incredibly intense ordeal. As if the risky combat mechanic wasn't stressful enough, the developers have decided to punish you further. As series veterans will know all too well, dying incurs a pretty steep penalty. You have to go back to the last bonfire you lit, which are quite often outside of the dungeon you were just in. This makes battles a daunting experience, yet the tension becomes even more unbearable after you've been killed. The reason for this is that if you are killed again when going back to collect your soul, you lose all the souls that you had previously amassed, for good. For the uninitiated, in Dark Souls when you kill an enemy you collect their soul. These souls function as in-game currency and are pretty vital to progressing through the game, so losing all of them is a big deal. This really isn't a game for the faint-hearted or easily frustrated. There are no super Tanuki suits to save you here. And unlike in most modern games, Dark Souls 2 doesn't go out of its way to hold your hand. The voice acting is also surprisingly well done. British voice actors in games can tend to ham it up a la Fable, and you're left with characters spouting cringe-inducing Cockney slang or sounding like constipated dukes. In Dark Souls 2, however, the voice acting is well considered and in keeping with the game's dark atmosphere. It's subtly done and sounds convincing, which is more than most fantasy games seem to manage.
My little pied-à-terre lies beyond here. You'll find some of my treasures there. Please, help yourself to those that suit you. Thank you very much. I will return the favor one day. Oh, I remember you. Let me do that again with not as terrible acting on the laughs. Yeah. Thank you very much. I will return the favor one day. Oh, I remember you.